It's a late edition of Locked On Guardians. We're going to try to do this with Justin on the phone as he's coming back on a Farm Friday to talk about what he saw in the minors. We're going to be responsible and respectable here. He was going to do no video. He was going to have his earbuds in and his seatbelt on. He was going to be making good choices. No punching mounds, no hurting his arm. Well, he did hurt his arm tonight. We'll get into that. My hand
does hurt.
We'll get into why his hand hurts. As well as, we're going to talk about Zach Plesac, if you can tell by that open, on today's Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Man, right now is the time. I kind of am sad that I don't have like my little camera. I'm using the built-in one. I'm this close to a cat fight happening, and we could just won all the ratings, but just flipping the camera down and watching a war occur because everyone likes a cat fight, right? That's what I've always heard on the internet. Welcome to Locked On Guardians. We want to thank you for taking your time to join us today. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can take you on a journey of self-discovery from wherever you are. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnMLB to get 10% off your first month. I want to thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever it is you get podcasts, and to say that we've got your Guardians covered every day, even when there's not much happening.
Top to bottom.
Yeah, T to B, we got you covered. Before we get into the Plesac of it all, Justin, how'd your hand?
I was at the captain's game tonight. I was checking out Reed Johnston, who we've talked about a little on this podcast, and foul ball came my way, and I've got my headphones in. I've got my camera out taking video. I've got my radar gun out, trying to be professional and bring out the good content. And a pop fly that comes behind home plate just happened to look up, and I stuck my hand out. If you're watching the video, you probably can't see it. My hand's a little bit swollen, but tried to catch a pop fly with my bare hand, and I couldn't squeeze it, and couldn't squeeze my hand for a few minutes after that. It was cold too, so that didn't help. So needless to say, that's why I didn't make it in pro ball. I don't have, or after senior year of high school, I don't have soft hands.
That's what I hear from. Never mind.
Late night Guardians. Long-time Guardians.
Late night Guardians. Listen, Zach Plesac has soft hands, so soft that a mound could break them. We're having some fun. Now, listen, I drove the bandwagon on Plesac. Let's be honest. If I'm going to be out here taking credit, I liked him as a draft pick when he was coming up. He was a guy I debated multiple times sliding into the top 10 when he wasn't really considered that by anyone else. I thought he had a chance. Then he looked like he really had a chance. And then he looked like a solid starter. And right now he looks like a mess. So I think this is the right call for everyone. He gets a chance to go down. And, we've seen guys go down to AAA and figure it out. We saw it happen with Tristan McKenzie last year. Remember at the start of the year when he was walking everyone, he led the majors in walk rate before he went to AAA last year. So I'm not saying he's going to come back. Was that 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Didn't he? Was last year? So last year was just a rough start. He had a rough start and then rebounded with something else.
Well, he came there. Remember, he came out of the bullpen last year for a couple of days because of the weird rotation in spring training. So
is that what it was? Yeah. He had his own struggles last year, but maybe it was 2 years ago. Tristan McKenzie. Either way, we've seen that. I don't really think you can credit Nick Sandlin's turnaround, as I don't even know if he reached Columbus before he came back. But there are examples, and I think it's hey, what have you got to lose? You're going to pay him either way. Maybe he can go down and figure it out. And if he comes back, he come back as a reliever. And if he's an effective reliever, guess what? He still has trade value because teams always need relief help at the deadline. If he comes back and they have a need for a starter, he could be a trade piece, or maybe he comes back and he's so good that he's an integral part of this team. Basically, gets down to it with Battenfield, giving him a longer look, seeing if he can maintain in this role, which is smart. Because he is one of those 5 to 10 guys you might look at as potential roster fodder, and no one's staying long, right? He is here for a May engagement, but he will not be here for the June wedding. Isn't that a thing from something somewhere? I don't know.
That's my thing. I'm getting.
That's your wedding.
Yeah, it's my wedding. He'll be.
He's not coming. He's not coming to your wedding.
I don't think so. They're playing Houston that week, so I don't know. Hopefully Tristan McKenzie's back by then, but you never know. These, like we said, these things work themselves out. By the way, I think we mentioned that there was some possibility that Plesac could have refused his option. He cannot.
Yeah,
he would had to have 5 years in a Major League service time, and it's 3.086. So he wouldn't have gotten there anyway. But this kind of goes back to when they optioned him to AAA during the COVID mishap. That took away potential service time for him, which was a big deal back then, and it wouldn't have mattered now. But
that's why he got the money early. Like that was the when they kind of did the arbitration. That's why he technically became a Super 2, even though he wasn't a Super 2. That was basically so the Guardians got an extra year of control, but had to pay for it. And he got money. Yeah. And, I think everyone ended up being okay with that. I mean, again, before anyone's like, oh, that was woke of them. Remember that the team wanted those two gone. That was a internal thing where the players were really ticked off.
Right. Players voted that.
Players voted them to be sent down. So I think that's why the Players Association really didn't fight that as hard as they could.
Wasn't it like Sandy Leone who was vocal about it too? And
he had multiple guys.
There was someone who had. There was somebody in the roster who was not here long.
Really?
Super vocal. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. He's quite the leader back there. He hasn't been here that long. But so Plesac goes down. We'll see what happens. I'm not surprised. I thought we saw last night there was some cryptic wording about where he was going to go last night on Twitter. And it's interesting, though, they stuck with Battenfield over Plesac. I know he's given them some troubles out of the gate in terms of starts, put them behind the 8 ball, but I'm very surprised that they went with the rookie who is pretty unproven, but they're hoping it's just for the rest of the month, like you said. So he'll pitch on Friday. That's Peyton Battenfield versus Bailey Ober Friday night for the Twins as Tyler Mahle hits the IL for them. Kenta Maeda's out. So Friday night's a must win. I don't want to say must win for the Guardians, but Saturday is Logan Allen, Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray has an ERA below 1. And
he's pretty good.
And Sunday is Cal Quantrill versus Joe Ryan. Joe Ryan, if you don't know who Joe Ryan is yet, you're going to know. He's pretty good. You should know. But Friday, please win Friday because those pitching matchups, like Logan Allen versus Sonny Gray, should be a lot of fun in terms of watching a pitching matchup. I'll be there. But in terms of offense, it doesn't look good.
That game's going to be under 2 hours. It was Adam Plutko was the one who called them liars, by the way. I pulled that up.
Oh, yeah.
That was the one. And
good for Adam. Always liked Adam.
Francisco Lindor also had some very choice words. So, yeah, but Plutko was the one who straight out said they lied to us. They sat here and then didn't follow through. I mean, he was pretty rough. But we're going to...
Any quick thoughts on the series this weekend? I mean, outside of the pitching matchups look brutal. I mean, they look good for... Pitching matchups look good, but it doesn't look good in terms of the Guardians' chances to hit the ball.
Yeah, and we all know how these things worked last year with me. Like whenever there was a player I liked, even if he didn't have a good year, when we faced him, he had a good year. And Gallo's having a good year, so I expect him to hit 4 home runs this weekend because he was the guy I was stumping for. And it always seems to, just like how Sean Murphy's right now, your leader in the clubhouse for NL MVP. So. I hate life sometimes, but I don't hate our sponsor.
Should have traded Espino when you had the chance.
No, he was so valuable.
Espino, Sean Murphy on his own.
Espino and Zach Plesac, that gets you Sean Murphy, right?
I don't know. Maybe Oakland would have taken injured or damaged goods because they obviously don't care. So you never know.
I mean, they took James Caprillion when he was damaged. If you give the other side of it, but
there you go.
Or Sonny Gray. For Sonny Gray is kind of tie it all together. But we're gonna come back, talk about not damaged goods, but some guys who've dealt with injuries and some
guys that are coming back.
Yeah, some standout performances in a second.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about some Guardians prospects that you may have forgotten about. And chances are you might have signed up for a subscription to watch a TV show. Maybe even it was to listen to music. Maybe you were one of the people who played for Pandora Plus. I've never paid for Pandora Premium or whatever it is, but maybe you did and you forgot about it and they were still charging you. Well, you can fix that with RocketMoney, a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and will help you lower your bills all in one place. It has alerted me to some things that I was previously subscribed to that I wanted to get out of, things I wasn't checking on a daily basis, even some baseball websites that I had subscriptions to that I was not checking every day. It just didn't make sense for me. So stop throwing your money away. Cancel unwanted subscriptions. Manage your expenses the easy way. Go to rocketmoney.com/LockedOnMLB. rocketmoney.com/LockedOnMLB. That is rocketmoney.com/LockedOnMLB.
I want to remind everyone to check out this week's games on XM Sirius Radio. We already told you who is going to be in the spots, but just in case you forgot, Bailey Ober, another one of my personal favorites through the years, versus Peyton Battenfield, trying to prove that he is there to stay. Check out the Sirius XM app.
Yep, on Friday and 6:10 on Saturday. Okay. Are you ready for Around the Farm Friday, Jeff?
Joey Cantillo. Joey Cantillo.
Joey Cantillo. He sure can. 13 strikeouts on Wednesday night for the Akron Rubber Ducks. That is a Akron Rubber Ducks second of all time. I have to go back and look at the notes, see what the first one is, because if there's more than that, it's pretty impressive. Probably the most impressive start by a Guardians minor leaguer since Daniel Espino last year. I hate to say it, but that's impressive. He had everything working last night on Wednesday night, I should say. Fastball was consistently 94, I heard. He had a couple walks, but the fastball command was generally pretty good. Got a lot of swings and misses with it. The curveball has come a long way in the last couple of years. I think some of that has to do with the added velocity, which Cleveland's done again. When Cleveland got Cantillo, he was 88, 92. Now he is consistently 92, 93, hitting 94. And that plays for a lefty, and it plays because he is lanky and has a lot of extension. So that 94 probably looks like 96 to some hitters. The Vulcan change splitter is really good for him. He got the slider going, which looked pretty good against a couple left-handers. So overall, great night for Joey Cantillo. Season high, 77 pitches, season high, 5 innings. First time they let him go that far. And I have to go back and find my tweet from today. But, man, he has been hard to hit in Double-A. He has only allowed 2 home runs. He only allowed 2 home runs all of last season. And he's only allowed, I think 7 home runs in his minor league career. Nobody hits a fly ball off this guy. He,
before his injury, had the lowest hard hit rate of any pitcher in the upper minors. And some people are like, what do you mean? That's the antithesis of what you say when I said he should move quickly. I mean, we should be measuring his time in Double-A in weeks, not months. He is a guy who doesn't have much left to prove there. Because you want to get him from Double-A to Triple-A to kind of test that next level. Because let's be honest, he's not going to pitch a ton of innings after injuries the last 2 years, but could he be in that Cody Morris role from a year ago towards the end of the year? I wouldn't be shocked. I'll just throw it out there.
Yeah, I think things would have to go really well because obviously they've been very careful so far because, like I said, 77 pitches on Wednesday was his season high. So
if it goes perfect, no hiccups in AAA.
Yeah, I don't give it really good odds, but I think you're right. There is a chance it could happen. I guess we'll find out. Other note too, Nick Enright. We talked about him multiple times on the show. I think we mentioned it
last night.
We did mention it last night, but I want to give it a little bigger mention here since it was at the end of the episode. So for those who maybe aren't familiar, Nick Enright, late draft pick by the Guardians. Jeff, you probably know better than I would when he was drafted.
Out of the University.
Yeah, it was University of Virginia, right? Was he a Virginia Cavalier?
I don't think he's a Virginia Cavalier because that would have stood out to me. I'll pull it up to be sure.
Ooh, hate to get that wrong. Anyway, while you're pulling that up,
he went to Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech. Okay, sorry, wrong Virginia school. Yikes.
Right, because Virginia Polytech is Virginia Tech. Yeah, because if someone's successful from Virginia, it stands out to me.
I guess so.
Guys I don't want to get that wrong. Aren't successul. So if he went to Virginia, he wouldn't be good.
Because that could be upsetting for Virginia rivals. But so the Miami Marlins took Nick Enright in the Rule 5 draft over the offseason. And then coming into the new year, he was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. Nick has beat Hodgkin's lymphoma, and he is back pitching in Jupiter in a rehab outing. He struck out 5, and he's gone 4 2/3 now innings in his rehab outings. He struck out 7, has given up 2 runs, no walks. Shock because he never walks anybody. Like we said last night, rooting for Nick to come back and make that Miami roster soon because their bullpen is pretty bad, and I think he's going to be better. It's bad, and Nick's going to be good. Hey, don't be shocked if Nick Enright's closing games for that team sometime this year. He's Nick won't walk anybody. Yeah, that's the guy you want out there in the late innings. You want a guy who's going to put anybody on. So he's looking good so far. So good for Nick Enright. Speaking of the comeback trail, I talked to Ethan Hankins tonight after Lake County. He is going to pitch Saturday. He is going to go about roughly 2 innings. It's probably going to be 30 pitches or so. It depends on how the first inning goes. But got to say, Ethan is taller than I remember. He hasn't pitched in 3 years. He is in incredibly much better shape. He looks like tall, lean, and mean. New perspective on life, I would say. Very good place mentally. I think the last couple of years have been hard for him. And he just seems like mentally he is ready to go. He wants to go out there and compete. He said he loves to compete. He misses that because in Arizona, there's really no competing. You're just going out there trying to practice. And this guy is a guy who is itching to go out there and throw. And he said he feels this is his bestest stuff he's ever had, maybe in his life. So just, keep the expectations in check because this is a guy who's thrown 1 inning since 2019. And that 1 inning was in Arizona last year. So, however things looked the first night, and I hope for Ethan's sake he doesn't put a lot of pressure on himself either because it's his first time back out there, and I'm sure he wants to strike out the side in order on an immaculate inning. But we'll see. So that's good news.
Just to give some context for those who don't really remember him, he was taken in the first round the year before Espino. So like when you think about how we complain that Espino's losing all this time, Espino had been up to AA. Hankins, he
never above low A.
Yeah. Well, he had Lake County was 21 innings, 38 in Mahoning Valley, and those were in 2019.
So Lake County was still low A that year.
Yeah. So he is not
higher.
And here's the thing: he was at points in time a potential top 10 pick. It was him and Kumar Rocker were the 2 big right-handed pitchers in that class from the prep ranks. Both Georgia kids. He had top 10 run, and I don't know if it was necessarily something that he hadn't ever run into problems, but it's everywhere. There were conditioning issues, and then he got in shape and did a great job, worked his tail off, and his reward for that was an injury. And now he has worked his tail off again to come back from the injury. And, we'll see what he can become. He's going to be 23 here in a few months. So he is
still pretty young.
Older for low A.
It's older. He's in high A, but it's older for high A, but it's still, Joey Cantillo, I know this is his second go around in AA, but Joey Cantillo is 23, won't be 24 till the end of the year. So Cantillo's a level ahead, but
yeah. So he's got plenty of time. It's the unfortunate thing where he hasn't pitched since 2019 because of injuries and COVID and everything else. Yeah. So we'll get to see what he can do this year. He's a wild card.
He is a wild card. And the plan is to eventually build him up as a starter. It's going to take some time, but they do have him coming back this year, hopefully pitching in a starting role at some point. Like he will start games. It's just going to be, short, and he's going to need a piggyback at the end, but that's the plan. And I saw Reed Johnston, rough command early on, missing around the edges a little bit, but man, that slider is good. He said the slider has gotten bigger since he's been with the Guardians. So his work, it's more of a sweeper, and I don't know. I like the slider. I think it's deceptive. I think he might be a reliever long-term, but that would be good for his fastball. And the slider is an out pitch as a reliever, at least. And then Franco Aleman, man, I was impressed by him. I have not seen him live yet before. The arm action is super, super long. Like it takes a while for him to get the arm going. But the arm speed is there when he throws. He pops the glove. It's mid-90s fastball and a mid-80s slider.
It's a nice velocity bump for him since his Florida days, right? Wasn't he the guy who was the third arm from Florida?
He was. I think I remember him. You know better than I
thought he was low 90s. He was like a low 90s sinker guy more at Florida.
I thought in Florida they said he was up to 97 at some point. But
it might have been up to, but he wasn't. I mean, most of the stuff I saw was like 92, 93.
Yeah. Well, this was in a 3-inning relief role, so he's not really a starter. But
yeah.
And then Juan Brito hit another home run the night. The ball he hit was like, I don't want to say Jose-esque, but it was a ball that was like low and in at his like thighs, like maybe knee area. And he just like yanked it to right field. Like he went down and put the bat head on it and it went to right field. And it was just super impressive. Juan Brito should be in AA. Nate Furman should be in high A. And yeah, no questions there.
Yeah, it's a lot of guys need to get moved up soon. Let's just put it that way. There's some performers who need some bumps.
Cantillo should go to AAA.
Really? I mean, I would argue pretty soon if Will Dion keeps doing what he's doing, he might need a bump up. He's had a fantastic start to the year. Heck, if this team needs bullpen help, it's going to get harder and harder to ignore Caleb Barringer down there. We got a pair of Indiana lefties in AAA, but he has been. I know why you're making the face, but like, hey, if you need roster fodder, you need a temporary lefty for a bit. He's putting up numbers.
Yeah, maybe. All right. Well, unless you've got anybody else in the minor league side of things, I'm not going to go too much longer.
My only other thing is Joe Lampe needs a promotion.
Yes, I would agree. Joe Lampe needs a promotion for sure. You could probably, I don't know. There's no one in Double A to bump to AAA.
Joe Lampe's got a 164 runs created plus right now, guys. He is. Yeah, he is just well above that level.
Joe Lampe needs to go to Double A, and Guy Lipscomb needs to go to High A as well. I tell you, Low A is just it's bad baseball right now. I hate to say it, but it's just not a good. It's not a level. I can't take that level super serious. Like that's where I saw Reed Johnston. And I thought he looked good, but I was like, yeah, I want to see him at a higher level. Like Low A right now, if you're making any assumptions off of Low A performance right now, you have got to be like, I don't know, licking more salt than you can get with a margarita on that, because it's just
But yeah, Lampe, let's promote Lampe and Brito tomorrow. Like those guys need that call up. That's just they got nothing to prove.
Yeah. I agree.
And Zarte needs to move up to High A. That's the other guy.
Yeah, Zarate. I mean, those guys have such good approaches. They make contact. When you throw them against guys who can't throw strikes at that level because the Low A pitching is never that good, like it just doesn't make sense, because you're just going to let them go out there and take walks. They're not swinging because they're not getting good pitches to hit. All right. Jeff's got
one last thing, and I just want to say as a tease for segment 3, I mentioned Zarte for a specific reason before we talk college stuff. So I want to just say that his name came up not only because he deserves a promotion, but because he's going to tie into what I'm going to talk about in a bit.
I like Sorare last year quite a bit. He can play the outfield too. He's a good defender. Jeff's got the college baseball MLB draft segment of the week, and we still got mailbag questions to get to that you asked us tonight. So for those who like the longer shows, we get to go a little bit longer tonight because of the mailbag episode. So you're in luck. You get to hear more of our voices, and if you're watching, you get to see more of our wonderful faces in just a moment.
And that sponsor is our title sponsor, BetterHelp. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. I've talked about it. Listen, I have anxiety out the wazoo. I have, as a writer and journalist, always had a terrible case of imposter syndrome. I have never felt like I am. People are like, "Oh, I love your draft content," and I always am like, "Why? I'm not real. I've never really been able to. I'll brag. Maybe that's why I like to brag when I actually get it right, because I'm like, hey, maybe I know what I'm talking about. I always remember when I'm like, hey, I occasionally know what I'm talking about, and then the Guardians one of their official accounts goes, no, you do. I'm like, oh, thanks, guys. You don't know how much I needed that. You guys don't know how much it means to have that person to say you are doing well and what you do matters. And BetterHelp is there to do that. They're going to set you up with a licensed therapist to help you find the best you, to help you, achieve your greatness. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suit your schedule. And just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with the right licensed therapist. Switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Find more balance with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnMLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnMLB. And I also want to remind you again to check out SiriusXM Radio this weekend, as the Guardians will be playing on there. Who doesn't love the radio broadcasts in Cleveland? Not that we don't love our TV and our good friend Andre, but Hamilton is kind of the voice of the Cleveland Guardians, and make sure to check that out on SiriusXM Radio all weekend long.
By the way, one last minor league note: Nate Furman, 14th stolen base of the year tonight.
There's just so many guys. It's very interesting. If you look at that runs created plus, Lincecum, Brito, Zarte, Furman, Lampe, all in the top 10.
All steals. I know. It's crazy.
All in the top 10 for that list.
And Gavin Williams hit 100 today in Columbus.
Mm-hmm. And Brian Rocchio in there as well. Again, the guy who's probably ready to help this team. But okay, so I specifically was like, okay, let's dig a little deeper on this list. This is an all hitter group. And I went and looked again at the list of the hardest guys to strike out, because this is Contact City. This is a team that, Nate Furman, contact specialist. Guy Lincecum, contact specialist, good speed. Zarte is contact specialist. Zart, I can't say his name. AZ, maybe I'll call him. Good old AZ, Arizona there, right? That's the postal abbreviation. Strong defender, great contact skills. We know they have a type. So I went through and just looked at the top list. Now, a name that is getting more and more run of late is Mike Bove from Omaha. Oh, see it? Justin's approving. Got the head shake over there.
I've heard the name.
He is super young. He's a guy who is 20 years of age. Dad was a high school coach for 25 years. He went to the Cape this past year and showed no power. Guy, this is a Guardian special. No power at all. 299 slug, but a 412 on base. So he went and played with the wood bat with the big boys and showed there's no pop, but he can get on base and he doesn't strike out. That sounds like a Guardian special to me. Good defender, coach's son, all fields approach, high contact, low K, young for his class. Welcome Mike Bove, fourth round pick to the Cleveland Guardians. If he's still there, fourth, fifth round, this is one of their guys. Small school, Cape, young for the class, contact rates, coach's son, well developed. Yeah. I want to give a quick shout out to Ethan Legge, who was previously drafted out of high school by the Brewers. He has bounced around to like 5 different schools in his college career. He's playing for Ole Miss right now, maybe more of a day 3 guy. Not particularly stellar numbers, but again, when you're Mike Bove and you're putting up great numbers at University of Omaha, level of competition where with Ledge, he is doing this in the SEC. So a name to know. He is an older player at 22, but I think he's the only SEC player in that hardest players to strike out list. A quick note of other players we talked about on that list as I quickly move through these. You got Kyle Teal is starting to strike out more and more in the ACC, so he is out of that list. And Rico Nishida in the 3rd, Bove in the 4th is what it's looking like. Nishida started playing right field this week. Another top performer. A really interesting name is Jonah Advincula. And if you don't know him, that's fine. He plays at Washington State. Almost got myself in trouble. Played well in the summer league. He runs. Like he is by reports, I think I saw a 65, 70 grade runner. Strong defender in the outfield. Could be a Zarte type of guy. And this year in the Pac-12, he is 364, 462 on base, 570 slugging. Not because of home runs. He's got 16 doubles. He is a doubles guy because of that speed, hitting the gaps, advanced approach. He played at destroyed baseballs at University of Redlands, which is a small, might be a D3 school, I think, in California. And we know the Guardians scout the heck out of all of the state of California as well. And he went to he was from the California area to begin with. So a guy that they probably know, probably a day 3 guy, but someone just keeping in the back of your mind. Jay Harry, Penn State, second baseman. Plus defender at second base, right? I would say can handle short, can play anywhere in the infield. Really hard to strike out. He did not go to the Cape, unfortunately, so that's the one knock on him. But this past year, it's more walks and strikeouts, almost impossible to strike out. Runs well, can play anywhere on the infield, and it just has that their profile. Probably more of a day 3 guy, but he is also super young. I believe, he is also 20 years of age right now. So also fits that age approach where he is a junior who is still, he's not get turned 21 till the summer and has been a top performer. Eddie Park at Stanford was actually a guy who was pretty well known before he got to Stanford as an outfielder. His first year in 2021, he didn't get to play a bunch. Last year he played and was solid. And this year, he's just picked it up a level. Again, very low strikeout rate, very low walk rate, tons of doubles. The difference is in the Cape Cod League, he had some slugging. His slugging was actually higher than his on base, but he found success in Cape Cod. So he's another guy with that Cape Cod success. Really good contact rates this year. And again, Stanford is not a dirty word for the draft anymore. And then the last 2 guys, teammates. I mentioned on Twitter this week, and I mentioned him earlier in the week, that I talked Max Anderson, first baseman, third baseman, Nebraska, who just turned 21. He is another Cape performer, was one of the top performers on the Cape. But, he was another on-base, no slugging guy at the Cape and limited at-bats. but has, I believe, some good batted ball data this year. Lots of doubles, but also lots of home runs, 16. He's got 29, 13 doubles, 16 home runs, and 2 triples. So 31 extra base hits. Strikes out 12% of the time and is hitting 385 in the Big Ten. He might end up being the Big Ten hitter of the year if he doesn't lose it to his teammate, Bryce Matthews, who has been out here the last 2 years on the Northwoods League, utterly dominating. I don't know why he didn't get a Cape invite last year. You look at his numbers across the board. His is a little higher at the 20% strikeout, but a 16% walk. I think Bryce Matthews is going to go second, third round. Not a name is known, but he's got 17 home runs as a shortstop while hitting 395 right now, so nearly 400.
So you're telling me Mitch Jebb and Matt Shaw are not going to win Big Ten Hit of the Year?
I mean,
by the way, I'm very interested in Matt Shaw. By the way, the more and more I hear about Matt Shaw,
I mocked him to the Guardians. I like Mitch Jebb. The thing with
weird swing. That's a weird.
It's a weird swing, and I think he won't get it because he has 0 home runs. Like he had 6 last year, he's got 0 this year, and it's weird to say 0 home runs means you won't win. He's got a 980.
So he's a Guardians draft pick, is what you're saying?
I think he's. Does he strike? No. I'd have to look at his rate. He could no, because I think he's going to go too high. He's a Wisconsin kid.
Jebb,
isn't he? I think he went to, or maybe he just played it. He maybe
State?
just play in the no. He's from Michigan. He's Michigan State kid. Oh, I'm sorry. He played in the Northwoods for Kenosha Kingfish.
That's a good
Kenosha in his profile. I think it's the second best wood bat, and he was great on the Cape. So you got to keep that in mind that he is like when the other guys, I'm like, 700 OPS, nearly 800 OPS. Jebb on the Cape last year at a 974. His strikeout rate is not as low as the other guys, but it's still 9.55. Last year was 6.11. And listen, Matt Shaw people got mad at the mock I did last week where I had him there. Like, not another infielder. Matt Shaw, I believe, hit a 495-foot home run, a 500-foot home run. He's power over hit, but he's also a good hitter. There's power in that profile for him. And he's not a shortstop. I don't know what he is. I think he could play third. He could probably play second. You could put him in the outfield. You could have him play all over. He's got 18 home runs this year, had 22 last year, 15 doubles.
More walks than strikeouts.
More walks than strikeouts. His strikeout rate is at 14. His walk rate is 16. He does it all on a not so great Maryland team. And last year on the Cape, was one of the more dominant hitters. It was not. He ended up with 906 OPS. He hit a home run. We know they value that. And he's not the biggest guy. He's sub 6 foot, but dude, that dude can hit, and he's going to be one of my top 20 players in this class, bar none. And
I want Matt Shaw.
I'd be very happy with Matt Shaw. People will be like, you've always said Jerron Watts Brown to Cleveland, and I'm like, yes, Jerron Watts Brown to Cleveland. It is the pick that makes the most sense to this team. So he is definitely getting drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals because that is how it has worked the last 3 years. Is the player that everyone thinks is going to Cleveland goes to St. Louis, and they have drafted college pitcher after college pitcher, and the college pitching group this year is disappointing. Will Sanders, Ross Dunn, a lot of those guys have kind of not taken that step forward you were hoping for. So instead, there's a drop off in there. Someone asked about Alonzo Treadwell, right? It's like I was wrong on that a few weeks ago. He's gonna go solidly in the second because I sat down to look through his pitcher class, thinking, he's so far down the line, and I went through all the guys whose names I had ahead of him, and I'm like, it has not gone well this year. So, make sure you let me know who else you would like me to talk about, revisit, dive into. But those are the guys who are contact specialists. Those are the guy that is every player in the top 50 who is, in terms of hardest to strike out, plays at a Power 5 conference.
A lot of good hitters in the Big Ten this year, it feels like. Yeah,
like I said, you could. I know, and there's probably someone I'm missing who's obvious, but it's like Max Anderson, Bryce Matthews in Nebraska, Matt Shaw, Mitch Jebb, Matthews, Shaw, and Jebb will probably all go in the first 100 picks. I'm betting those three. Anderson might slide a little. Just compared to the value. But Big Ten's having a pretty good year overall. And next year they'll have a very good year when they have a guy who might be the first overall pick.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The guy from
Iowa, the receiver,
Ben Brecht.
B,
Brecht.
Brecht. Yes, it was like
Yeah.
BB, isn't it? It's a B first name, B last name.
Since we're going to go a bit longer tonight, we're going to do the mailbag questions here. Let's get in another great sponsor here. It is one of our favorites, Sorare, a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 MLB teams. You can collect cards with your favorite sponsors like Juan Soto, Julio Rodriguez. Games happen twice weekly and span in a 3 to 4 day cycle. At the end of game weeks, Sorare MLB managers who rank near or at the top of their leaderboards win a variety of rewards, which can include scarcity cards, game tickets, merch, signed jerseys, VIP experiences like meeting MLB stars. Prizes are going to vary depending on the competition, so head to sorare.com/locked-on. That is SORARE.com to draft your team of free player cards, set your lineup, and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, sorare.com/locked-on to start playing today, and hit up our good buddy at Lex Super on Twitter, Alex Super, to get your advice on your lineups. Did you consult with Alex on that lineup, Jeff?
I did not, but there's my lineup. I decided to put it up, show people like money where my mouth is. I am playing. Like I was
Clase, Andres Jimenez, all bad choices.
Well, my bigger problem is Drew Rasmussen was did not play. MJ Melendez, 35 points was my star. Clase has 27 points this week. He was solid. Garrett Cole, 25. Ty France only 4. Jimenez 7. 3 for Maracano. I really need a better outfielder. My output, but what I like about it as opposed to like the daily fantasy grind is like hey, set it 4 days later. I come back, I see if I got a card, and it's fun to see you unlock. Like I said, Garrett Cole was an unlock for me, so that was fun. So yeah, it's fun, it's simple, it's fast. Yes,
it is a very fun thing to do. It's a little easier than your normal fantasy baseball. All right, mailbag. Let's start with the draft stuff because we did have a draft question, Jeff. So while you're on a roll, James Bailey wants to know, what are your thoughts on Chase Dollander after a disappointing season so far? Any other Tennessee players on your radar this year? Oh, pour one out for Drew Gilbert and Jordan Beck, guys I wanted last year. I really am still really hurting over the loss of Drew Gilbert.
Yeah, and I think in my redraft, I did not take him because in my redraft I saved the money to go get Cam Collier. But I debated because the thing with Gilbert was he would have been a cheaper signing, so that was you're always playing with the money. But Dollander, it's been a massive disappointment for those who don't know. It's like his walk rate went from 1.48 last year to 3.3. He's just not been as effective. His hit rate has gone up. His home run rate has almost doubled. He's just not the same guy. He's a former Georgia Southern pitcher. That was where he was his first year. That's Georgia Southern. Hunter Gaddis. Hunter Gaddis being the third big leaguer drafted out of Georgia Southern. So he goes to Tennessee. Yeah, it's disappointing. I still think, you look at that top 5, you can go listen to the mock draft where I explain why, both the Twins and the Rangers make a lot of sense because the drop off is so big. That's the problem. This college group, some people really like Waldrop from Florida, others don't. It's like right now there's Paul Skeens and about 6 feet than everyone else. And then you have those next two.
And then crap, and then us.
Yeah, it's not good. Maui Ohana has been a disappointment, I think, this year. I mean, yeah, you look at the numbers, they've gotten better as the year has gone on. He was kind of their big transfer out of Kansas, I want to say. My way too early mock had him going to the Brewers, so that's in the top 20. I didn't even consider him for the 30 odd picks I did this time. He's probably he could be a second rounder, could be a third rounder. I think he's probably the second biggest name in terms of draft. Chase Burns is in that competition to be the first player next year. The top of next year's class looks as good, if not better, as this year's.
Chase on his own team.
No. Jared Dickey, I believe, is draft eligible this year. The catcher outfielder, he'll go somewhere. I feel like on day 2. I mean, they're going to have a lot of guys go on day 2, but they graduated so many guys last year that it opened up a lot of opportunities.
Had a lot of good players last year. Who was the other guy? Trey Lipscomb was the Lipscomb I really wanted last year. No disrespect to Guy, but I really wanted Trey Lipscomb too. Nice Swiss Army knife. Let's stick with the draft here again. We got one more draft question, at least that I know of. John Turner, the Guardians need to focus on power on the draft. Who are some power hitters to keep an eye on? Matt Shaw.
That's all. Yeah, and people are going to say he's not a power hitter, and I'm going to tell them they're wrong because he hits the ball really hard. Like you want EVs, you want home runs. That's Matt Shaw. At that point in the draft, I get a lot of people who ask about will they go prep? Like I don't believe they will. I don't think that's a thing for them anymore because they can get so much more data on every other player.
Plus it's saving money, like Carson
Tucker. Yeah, it's like at that point in the draft, it's going to be interesting to see who kind of falls out. But the players in that grouping, it's like Braden Taylor's not a power guy. Yohandy Morales is, but he hasn't hit for power. So like I am scared of that type personally. Brock Wilken is probably the guy. He's got some of the best EV data in this draft class. So if you're looking for power, he's probably around there. Guy? Yeah, he's Wake. So, he's getting good coaching. He's also, you can't really, that's why you want to look at EV and not the performance because that stadium's awful it's very hitter friendly. I'm not on Jake Gedloff. I'm just going to state it. That's not my guy. I'm not. And Chase Davis is an interesting prospect who's rising late in the process. I mean, he was known out of high school, but I always get nervous with Arizona State players. Jace Bohefrin is another guy who was kind of a big name out of high school who's finally putting it together at Arkansas, though Arkansas also sometimes makes you a little nervous with that translation of performance. A lot of guys are free swingers. And then just for fun, I think he's not going to the Guardians with that pick, but Kyle Karros is looking a lot like his dad of late at UCLA.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't there a brother of Karros who was a pitcher too?
Yes. His older brother, right?
He's in the pros now, right?
Yes. Yeah, the Dodgers drafted the other Karros.
Jared Karros, yeah. I wanted UCLA kids, right? All UCLA kids?
Yes, all UCLA. And I think Karros might have been a Cape guy as well. So, there is that. But
I like Jared Karros.
I was just kind of curious. I hadn't looked. I just went to the MLB site that shows, I don't know, maybe this is good or not good, my preparation level. They didn't look at the rankings. They have Mike Bove and Boeve and Max Anderson back-to-back in their rankings. So that's just kind of funny to go look at that now. But, they're both Nebraska and both have Nebraska, I believe, Nebraska Omaha ties as one plays for that school and the other went from there. But that's just kind of random funny bit.
Corey Okular. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. I'm butchering names for once on here, so don't feel too bad, Jeff. He wants to know who is the best breakout season in the farm so far from an unheralded player. Anyone played themselves off the team's top 30 list. Breakout so far. I mean, I neither one of us probably can consider Juan Brito unheralded, right? Because we both like Juan Brito quite a bit, but he is having a fantastic year.
I was trying to think. I feel like it almost has to be a hitter because like the pitchers just haven't had enough opportunities. And it's just limited opportunities. It's like you've had 3 starts, best case. So it's just kind of, maybe.
I mean, if you want to dig super deep as a reliever, like Sean Rapp, this is low A, so take that with what it is. But Sean Rapp has looked really good as a reliever in low A. I
think Guy Lincecum would be my guy. I mean, I had him outside the top 30, and he's played super well. We talked about he needs a promotion. He was, some interesting physical traits, and he's, you look at this. I was curious. I went and looked at the weighted runs created plus in the minors, 20 guys. So it's him, maybe Jose Devers, who's looked really good in the early going too. But again, both those guys are doing it at low A, so it kind of tempers it a bit. Jorge Burgos at high A is kind of some nice stuff and some limited play. But I mean, it's like Petey Halpin's 21st right now for 95 runs created plus. So there may not be one.
I would say Joe Lampe is kind of unheralded. Like I know he was not super low on our list, but not a guy we were like pitching early because we talked about Will Brennan, Chase DeLauder, George Valera, Jason Churio is the best outfielders. Probably Lampe behind Halpin, right? So, I think Joe Lampe didn't get a whole lot of love coming into the season, and he is off to a good start. Look, nobody in Double A is playing good. Akron is playing awful baseball right now. Although I will say Tanner Burns has been
Good.
A little
Yeah,
better lately.
no. We the reverse jinx is strong in us.
Yeah, no, good for him, seriously, because
Yeah.
I heard he was up to 94 tonight, quite a bit, so that was good. Still having a hard time getting deep into starts just because, high pitch count, even though he doesn't walk a lot of guys. But that's good. I mean, Will Dion is tearing it up at the high A. You said that before.
He's got the lowest FIP in the minor leagues right now for Cleveland.
Yeah, and I want to say
ERA.
I want to say I heard his topped out this year at 91, which not awful, but needs to be a little higher. But it's a start, and he's got
in terms of K percentage. It's interesting that Behringer's 1, Dion 2, Cantillo 3, Kelly 4, Adam Tulloch 5, Gavin Williams 6, Sean Rapp 7, Logan Allen 8, Cade Smith 10. Does Cade Smith count? I mean, I know he's got some ups and downs, but he definitely looks the part of a future big leaguer, which is pretty good for an undrafted. Now, it was undrafted in 2020 where the draft was only 5 rounds, but
got to cut the walks down. That's the big issue for him.
But I think he's still going to, what we've seen with like the Sean Andersons of the world is there's still a future, maybe not in Cleveland, but there's still a future for a guy who misses bats like that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so the breakouts are hard to come by. It hasn't been a great year so far, to be honest with you, which is disappointing. Juan Brito so far looks like the player of the year in the minors. Anthony Persinski, 3 years from now, who do you see as our starting shortstop? God, I hope it's Brian Rocchio, because if it's not, it's
Rosario. I'm kidding.
All right, I'm done. Call the night.
Jose Iglesias.
Jose Devers?
No, Jose Iglesias. He always manages to start for someone, right? In Cleveland, Tito wants his vet at shortstop. He's not letting a rookie in there.
Well, Tito can be the manager in 3 years.
He'll be like in that. He'll be in a robotic suit. He'll be like a full on cyborg, refusing to give up. Yeah. No, it's got to be Rocchio.
I hope it's Rocchio.
I mean, Tana's looked even worse this year after last year. It's
How about Andres Jimenez?
I mean,
and you just figure out who plays. Andres Jimenez and Juan Brito at second base. How about that?
Or should I go the crazy one with the way he's played? Even though I'm not his biggest fan, Valdez and Jimenez.
Yordy's had 3 hits again tonight at Lake County. Just saying,
keeps hitting, and like you put those two together up the middle, that would be the best defensive combo they've had since Omar and Alomar. I mean,
yeah, it would be good. Our good buddy Mike the Mad Thinker wants to know, with Logan Allen already out of the 40 and Espino and Near locked to be out of the 40, as we said, he's kind of have to be on the 40 despite his injury. What other players in the minors have a better than a 50-50 chance to be added by the deadline? All right. Thanks to our buddy Arthur, who tracks the
Fredo Antunes has been the guy who comes to mind most often, but it's not been great this year, right?
No, he's hit the ball well. He just had another injury the other day, but he's back. Is that what it is?
So he just doesn't qualify? Because I was like, he's not on this list of guys I have.
No, he's hitting. He's hitting well. He missed a couple of days with an injury. So, there's Wilfredo Antunes, Mayat Collado, but I'm not going there yet because again, these are all low A guys, and he is a 5'11" first baseman who's 20 years old. Same with Antunes. I'm not going there either. David Fry's on the 40 now. Finally, pitcher. I'm looking at catchers. Catcher, there's nobody that stands out either.
Maybe Tanner Burns plays his way.
Yeah, I could see Tanner Burns.
Cade Smith if he can cut down on things. Those are like the.
Who probably you have to think about now retroactively.
But no, Yordis is eligible.
He is. I don't think. I mean, he's only. I don't know.
If they're adding Noel, then they're adding Yordis. Like at that level, at that age.
If they have the space, add Yordis. Who's going to be an interesting case coming up this winter is going to be Ethan Hankins, because depending on how he pitches this year, there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on him. And if he comes back and pitches well, teams are going to be super interested in putting him and seeing what he can do. A guy I would think about some of the relievers retroactively would be Nick Mikolajek and Andrew Misiazik, because if both of those guys go into the offseason hurt, you could see a team take them in the Rule 5, stash them on the injured list, and play games that way. So those are guys to worry about. So Burns, Mikolajek, Misiazik, Ethan Hankins, Antunes, Cade Smith.
I do think Valdez, because I don't think he's the way he's hitting, he's going to get promoted. And then once he hits the next level, and if he keeps hitting, then it's a no. Again,
What
with
about
what
Mike
get,
Caprice?
I think they're going to just roll the dice with him.
Really, that's risky. He's hitting the ball well in Columbus. I'm not saying he's great,
but like if they don't give him a call up at some point this year, then I mean, like right now, honestly, I personally, with everything else that's going on, I would send down Oscar and call him up now. Like this team's searching for an outfielder. If he is going to get an opportunity, it's now. If he is at the end of the year, if they haven't called him up, then they're not protecting him because then they didn't give an opportunity. So I think he's a 0% because it's either now or it's never.
Diane Frias, another one.
A lot of people, there are people who like him.
Yeah, and he has his supporters in the system. It's not a great list,
but it's I'll say this. Weirdly, it is better because, like I said, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, Yordis Valdez is showing value. Tanner Burns is showing value. There are guys who are showing value.
Told you, get on the Yordis trade. Get on it. Hop on my back.
I'm not allowed on. I was too negative for too long. I'm banned. There's a picture.
I'm banned. We're not letting you on aboard this train.
I'm not allowed on.
He has cooled off a little bit, I will say, but the bat is as good as it's been, and the defense is superb.
I do have two questions here that went into my DMs. So from Nolan Dasick, one of our everydayers, what is Cantillo's MLB ETA? I think we kind of already covered that. Was his first question. There's
Hopefully
a chance
this September.
Yeah. And who is the next Cleveland Cy Young winner? Bybee, McKenzie, Corbin Burns. So I thought you'd appreciate that.
If it's not going to be Corbin Burns, why not Tanner Bybee? Come on. I'm telling you, I know this is big praise, and I know it's early, but I'm telling you, I think Tanner Bybee is the next ace of the staff.
No, I agree. It's like I said, Gavin Williams should also be at least get a mention, but it is interesting to me. Maybe it's because none of it was since he's been in system, but it's like there are a lot of people who are just rolling over it. What was a really scary injury history on him as well when he was in school with like constant injuries. So not to say that there's been any sign of it since he's drafted, but he's got potential as long as he stays healthy. Heck, if Espino can come back healthy and just this is like a Julio situation, like we talked yesterday, he might actually have the best chances because how good that stuff is at peak.
Yeah, you never know. Guess who had a walk-off tonight for the Washington Nationals while we're talking about the minor leagues?
Alex Call?
Alex Call, walk-off hit tonight.
Yeah. How nice would he look in right field right now? He has hit since he had nearly identical data to Will Benson last year. Not like advanced or batted ball data, but that kid just worked his tail off constantly, hit well. I know he's only got an 86 OPS plus right now. It's not like he's a star, but an 86 OPS an 86 OPS plus would still be much better than what Brennan or Gonzalez are doing. Which is again why, Oscar just needs reps. So send him down and call up Mike Caprice. Let's start the Priest train. Come on, ride it.
I'm on board. Trust me, I'm on board.
Is that
any other questions? I don't have any more.
I was trying to see. I think that is all I have as well. That's our questions. We went a little bit long as we're taking some questions, talking some draft, having fun basically on a no baseball day. Hopefully this is the weekend that helps them get off the schneid and start figuring things out. Hopefully we come back. Listen, a year ago, it was never fail. I start talking trash or start doubting a player, and the Kyle Farmer revenge games happened. It was so. The moral of the story should be this weekend, after me calling for Oscar Gonzalez and James Karinchak's 99's demotions, those two are going to be the MVPs this weekend. That's the way it worked a year ago. So let's see if the crap talking can finally work the way it's supposed to and help propel this team to victory. I want to thank you all for listening, rating and reviewing, downloading. It helps. To all of our everydayers, give you several shots. William Stearns was very amused by what I did yesterday. He was like, wow. He literally goes, I was getting ready to leave a comment, and then you said that. And we listen, we pay attention. We have some fun with all of you out there who are part of the Locked On Guardians fan army. Is that still a thing? Do we still call things fan armies? This is almost an hour, so we're going to cut it here. And again, thank you all for being part of the team, having fun with us, being part of the mailbag, part of the show. Thank you for all you do. And go Guardians, go.